Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. I'm Lucas and welcome back to another video here on the channel with another league race from a while back. We have today WOR round 3 at Miami. Same, when we did this race it was actually Miami back to back. We had PSGL Miami and now we have WOR Miami. So this was basically 3 or 4 days, I believe it was like 4 days after we did PSGL Miami. And yeah, back again for some more Miami. Just gonna go with that. Anyway, into Q1 now. First run and hopefully our only run of Q1. Using a lot of care and correcting the car on transition through turn 2 and 3. Saving the distance now as we pull it as close to the wall as we can. Turning in just after the 50 metre board down to 7th, then 6th. Quite a fun section actually, using plenty of curb and then trying not to exceed track limits. Holding quite a tight line there to yeah, save the distance, I guess, getting the lap time that way. And then you have this long straightaway. The straight's a lot longer than you think. It's sort of deceiving because of how, you know, twisty and windy it is. But yeah, coming into this really challenging final sort of complex or half the lap down to 4th gear. Are we going to short shift? No, we're not. We're going to hold it in 4th gear. Want to try and keep it nice and tight to the wall. Then it's all about getting on the power as much as you can, using plenty of curb there. Not getting that second part good at all. That section is one of the hardest parts on the track. And yeah, this was with this was on 240 FPS. This was before I knew of all of this 60 FPS shenanigans and all that. So that section was properly brutal on normal FPS, which was quite challenging. Every time you went through there, getting bounced all over the place. But yeah,
it was rubbish. But
heading to the line now. What's it going to be? It is a 126.434. Plenty good enough a lap to get us through
I reckon we lost
one
at least a 10th minimum through that section.
You can hear me complaining about the lap. As always, it's quite rare that I'm ever happy with things, as you'll find out. Top of Q1 though, with yeah, half a tenth back to P2. So solid Q1, all you needed to do. And yeah, now to the first run of Q2. And I hope you guys enjoy how I've sort of do this, where I basically run you through lap by lap, sort of the progression of quality, how it gets built up. Yeah, any feedback in the comments as well as would be welcome, as well as how to how the videos are made. Whether you would like to see, you know, more race, less quality, these sort of things. Your feedback is always welcome. So yeah, feel free to let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. But yeah, quite good through there, I think, through sector 1, 626. Through the first sector split, which I think is quite decent from memory for a first run of Q2. So now all we need to do is keep the second part of the lap nice and clean, breaking at the 100 metre board, getting to the apex nicely, and then keeping it nice and tight to the wall. That's how we want to do it. Short shifting to 5th, and how we're going to get through the chicane down to 3rd. Plenty of curb use that time, but we still do not get on the power nicely. We never land that transition. The rebound.
I lost like 2 tenths.
As I will need to censor that in the in the edit because I actually swore.
I'm doing 2 runs anyway,
but yeah, heading down, hopefully to salvage the lap in the final corner. Do we get to the apex nicely? Yes, we do. Out of the final corner.
Oh, rotten.
Complaining about the lap as always.
That was so bad.
And now on to the last run of Q2, where we we had the tyres anyway, so doing this run was like a freebie. Even though the lap before would maybe be good enough, or regardless of that, it was just an opportunity to go again. So heading through sector 1 again, not getting a great run through turn 3, having to run a little bit too wide due to the way we mounted the curb. But now heading through this first section again. We are only slightly up, taking a wider entry this time. Do we get a good release? Looks like we do, 100th up, so another solid sector 1.
Too aggressive there.
Complaining that was a little bit too aggressive, which is probably true. I think I tried to push the limit a little bit too hard and didn't really gain much from it. One car ahead of us doing a lap as well, which can be off-putting if you are sort of not prepared for it, I guess. And yeah, the lap has been pretty similar up to this stage, so it's going to be interesting to see how much we gain or lose into this final section. Opting for 4th gear this time, getting a nice smooth landing, albeit we do not get the car over to the right hand side that smoothly. But regardless of that, we do gain 0.15 of a second in that singular section alone, which pretty much sums up how this yeah, how that section is. That sort of bit makes or breaks your lap. Heading into the final corner now, down to third gear, get into the apex nicely, short shift into fourth. Quite a tricky traction zone through there. Very easy to lose it as the circuit rises up as you're sort of applying the throttle, and that would be more than good enough to get us through. Puts us P2 just behind Jarno Opmeer for Q2, and now time for our first run of Q3. So, the grip progressing quite a bit now as we head into Q3. Lap times will start to tumble down a bit, so let's see how we manage to get on. Heading into turn 1, get into the apex, maybe a little bit too much on the apex, but getting a lovely run through that opening complex. Carrying a lot of entry speed this time. You can really see the extra grip that you actually have, just carrying a bit more extra speed, using more road. We have more confidence to place the car where we want to. Getting a pretty solid exit, and it's a 5.62 sector 1. Again, half a tenth improvement on where we were at in Q2. So very solid sector 1. Now to try and nail the next section of the lap, because we could still do quite a decent lap at this stage in the session. So braking at 100 metres, not quite getting the apex the way we want to, but can we salvage it, keeping it nice and tight to the wall, getting on the power nice and smoothly, down to fourth gear, not getting a great section through there again, always our enemy through there. Never did we get an apex, and then having to fight the steering on exit.
Terrible.
It's only a 0.1 section through, 0.1 split through there,
a chicane.
and you can hear me complaining about the chicane. Which, yeah, we were on for quite a solid lap, but that again, that chicane, every time we go through there, it makes or breaks your lap. And then locking up the front right, just under rotating that slight bit, even though we didn't fully lock it up, just not getting that rotation and grip from the front tires as we went through that final section. And it is a 0.89 for our first run. Certainly could be a lot worse, but for sure could be a heck of a lot better. So, we knew our pace at Miami was very good. I had a lot of confidence in my raw speed around this track going into these from practice. So I knew all I needed to do was try and tidy up that chicane section, which had been costing us all the way through qualifying. 100th down as we exit the first 3 corners. Let's see if we can make it up, heading into the high speed section, downshifting a little bit earlier, using a lot of curb to try and rotate the car, and we do go a tiny bit up, sort of neutral on the delta. Do we get a nice slingshot onto the straight? Oh, we're practically identical, slightly up on our previous run now, heading down the middle straight. DRS open, saving the distance on the left hand side, make our route as short as possible. Now we know we need to nail this section of the lap. This is where our lap time is. Too early on the brakes. We did not nail that corner, so now we have it all to do coming into this treacherous chicane. A little bit up in the delta. Can we nail this chicane? Cutting plenty, but we actually invalidate going over that curb. The one time we try and commit to it to make it completely as straight as possible, we get the invalidation by the slightest of margins. It is pretty brutal, but that's just how it goes in these sessions. You try and push the envelope that little bit further, and it bites you hard. Breaking into this last corner now, we still don't get the apex, don't get a great exit either. And the worst part of it is though, is we actually set pole position. We set a 9.00. I think I see. Yeah, 9.00. A really good lap, would have been good enough for pole by a tenth of a second, and it wasn't to be because we got the invalidation. It's a bit of a shame, but that's the price we pay for pushing the limit. But as you can see now, starting P5 in this race, and it's raining. We are on the intermediate tyre. Everyone's on inters, there's no sort of slicks or wet crazy strategies. This race, the strategy is going to be very critical to get right. I don't know how I said critical there, but yeah, it's going to be crucial to get the strategy right in this race, but first of all, we need to try and make positions up if we really want to realistically have a fighting chance of winning this race, as overtaking in the wet conditions does become quite that bit harder. But I've always loved the wet weather. Let's see how we can get on. 5 red lights coming on your screen now, waiting for them to go out, and away we go. We get an okay initial launch, we get a little bit of slip as we drop through first gear, but getting a solid run on the Williams on our inside, but Will Lewis with a huge dive bomb up the inside, and we get boxed in by Stachalik actually, but we do gain 1 position, technically, because, well, technically we don't, because Will Lewis moved all the way up, and we get better traction though than Stachalik though in the Haas, so that is us overtaking 2 cars, net 1 position up. And I knew one of my best chances to make ground in this race would be on this opening phase when everyone was sliding around trying to adapt to conditions. So I wanted to, you know, try and use, you know, everything I had to try and get as far up the grid as I could. So Will Lewis ahead, not deploying energy. We opt to go very, very aggressive, trying to use that slip team, using that energy. Will Lewis doesn't defend, we go up the inside, break later than him, and that is us up into P3. So an excellent start to this race, exactly what we needed heading into this second half of the lap. And now we can see the two Mercedes teammates, Jarno Opmeer and Jake Benham, right ahead of us. So now we have to try and somehow find a way to outdo not just one but two of the Mercedes, and when they're both together on track, that is quite a challenging thing to do. So we've got a work cut out for us in this race, and it's going to be a long one. Wet races sort of never seem to end. We're 29 laps ahead of us now, so let's see how we manage to get on. So heading into the final corner for the first time in this race, not getting to the apex. Nobody probably did on that first attempt, trying to find the braking zone. You can see us correcting the steering, trying to find a rhythm as we head on now into lap 2, cutting on now into lap 6 now. And I just wanted to show a lap to sort of I guess explain this whole opening stint. Is this is kind of how it looked. I felt like I had solid pace in this initial phase of the race, but it is very, very hard to actually make a move at this point in the race, and we didn't really know when it was going to dry up or even if it was going to dry up. So I think Jarno at this stage was just trying to make sure he was saving his tyres that little bit. I wasn't going completely crazy on tyres, but I certainly wasn't saving them, let's say. I was definitely pushing on, trying to make the best of any opportunity I could even arise. I wanted to pressure the two cars ahead of us. That was my only chance. The top three pack we have with Jake, Jarno and myself actually pulled away quite a bit to the cars behind. We had a 2.4 second gap to Will Lewis on lap 6 now, so pushing on quite a bit, holding a nice high gear to get the traction, fighting the steering, and it just feels so slow. You know, you're on race fuel, trying not to get any warnings through here, trying not to have any, you know, shock repeat drama of, you know, crazy warnings and stuff like we had in PSGL the week before. And yeah, this is sort of how it was for the first couple of laps in this race.
He used a lot.
Basically, this was basically how it was in the first opening laps. You know, it was like you were yo-yoing back and forth. You know, at the beginning of this lap, Jake Benham was quite a long way up ahead of Jarno. Now Jarno's closed up, and we got close to Jarno. Now Jarno's expanded away. So this is basically how it was. It was like a yo-yo.
Okay.
However, cutting on to lap 12, the rain has stopped falling. Now it's going to be all about how quickly this track decides to dry, and as you can see now, we have bunched up massively as a trio at the front of this pack. We have Jake Benham, Jarno and myself pretty much, you know, line astern as we negotiate these treacherous curbs. They were really, really quick through this section all race, which was quite a challenge to get a run on them on the way out of this this section. You can hear me speaking to my engineer Anton in the background. We have a 4.1 second gap to the cars behind. I'm just asking my engineer at this point, just keep wise to everything that's going on in the race. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't getting caught out by anything. We just wanted to be, you know, as informed as possible in the decisions that we're making, and to try and capitalise on any opportunities that arise. So, heading on to lap 16 now, and as you can see, it's barely dried. The rain has been off for multiple laps, and this track is probably just about as wet. It's not really dried up massively at all. And our INTERS are, you know, getting older and older at this point in the race, so the strategy was very hard to read at this point in the race. But as you can see now, Jarno Opmeer trying to attack his teammate Jake Benham heading into this final section of the lap, and at this point it was, I just wanted to smell opportunity if there was any available. You know, if these two teammates start to fight, I wanted to make sure that maybe, just maybe, I'd be able to capitalise on any battles and moves that they slow themselves up on. So going side by side, the two Mercedes running in deep into turn 1. This allows me to get a closer run heading through 2 and 3. And Jarno has the wider trajectory through 2, and we are right in the thick of this fight now. So, using the energy, trying to pressure Jarno into overtaking Jake Benham. Jake has to force the right, take the wide line. We go round the outside of Jake Benham, which then turns to the inside through this long sweeping left-hander. And then I see an opportunity to try and slow Jarno's momentum going onto this big long straight. Sadly, don't quite get the move done. We are just about alongside, using all of our battery to try our very best to, you know, create an opportunity. But unfortunately, Jake Benham on the outside had really good overspeed. I can't really do much unboxing. I have a little look at the inside, but I just couldn't make the move last. And unfortunately, Jake Benham gets straight back around the outside. So that was a crazy, you know, couple of corners. A great battle. We actually give Jake a little nudge. So sorry for that. You can see me, you can hear me, sorry, complaining about how, you know, someone overtook me off the track, but that's because I didn't actually see it. Nobody went off the track. So yeah, I just missaw things or misread things as they were happening in the race. So yeah, a heck of a battle. Great to battle the Mercedes. Quite a crazy one. But as you can see now, on lap 21, we opt to make a very bold strategy decision. The track was not drying at all. The track was barely drying at this stage in the race. So I opted for a very bold strategy and to box another set of intermediate tyres. And language, and then I need to bleep that one out.
Are you kidding?
And the DRS got enabled. The DRS got enabled, you know, just as we got into the pits. But all was not lost at this point in the race.
Mate, it doesn't matter. We'll keep grinding with all I know. The crossover's so slow, mate, that the dries might not fire up. Just keep an eye on the dry runners. Focus.
Yep. Okay. So as you can hear me talking to my engineer, I was just trying to tell Anton to keep vigilant on what the other dry runners are doing. So the play is, at this point in the race, we're on a brand new set of INTERS. The cars ahead of us were on old INTERS, and the aim here was to hope that it didn't dry up quick enough, because it was not drying for like 10 laps. So I took the risk to go onto a brand new set of INTERS and get the undercut, which we have on Jarno Opmeer, who boxes for softs. And we need to watch this gap as we exit the pit now. This is a crucial part of the race to see if the softs or the INTERS are the right tyre to be on. Because the INTERS that we were on the first stint were on the verge of blowing up, so I had to make a call. I had to take a risk, and I decided to take the INTERS tyres again and get a good undercut on the cars that were ahead of me and hope that it doesn't dry up quickly. But if you look at the gap, we have gained 2.5 seconds already in one sector.
He's struggling a lot.
So, yep. I need to edit more swearing. Yeah, we have, at the moment, we have made a great call. As Tom Manley is now off the track that we need to avoid, I might have had a puncture on those INTERS. So what we tried to do was basically bank on the track not drying up in the latter phases of the race. And even if it did,
anyone that tries to go to the end will probably explode, mate.
Even if it did dry up, the INTERS were still working quite well in drier conditions. They don't lose as much pace as they have on past games. So we have a 6-second gap to Jarno Opmeer now on this lap. And that just showed that the INTERS were working still really well on a very slowly drying track. We set the fastest lap of the race. Jake Benham is in the pits now as we completely miss our braking zone. But the crucial thing for us now is Jake Benham comes out on track, and albeit he has 2 lap fresher INTERS, he has 2.8 seconds behind us. We at the moment have pulled off a really good strategy call at lap 24 in this race. And yeah, all we needed to do now was hang on to the tyres, hope that Jarno would not gain back all the time that he'd lost, because now Jarno lost 6 seconds in the first lap getting the tyres fired up, but now he's only losing a few tenths. So for all I knew at this point in the race, Jarno's tyres could fire up in the next 2 laps, and then I'm in massive trouble. So all I needed to do was keep these INTERS going and hope that it still dries as slowly as it has done this entire race. That was the plan, that was the goal. And as you can see now, about to take the actual race lead back as Primoz in front of us will peel into the pits, presumably at the end of the lap. Jake Benham got ahead of Stachalik in P4 and has closed the gap down a few tenths with those fresh inters.
Yeah, but it's
and
gonna get
yeah,
lost for us.
Jarno still losing a bit of time, but nowhere near as much as he was at the beginning. So yeah, there was still quite a few laps left in this race to go, and the hope was that Jarno's tyres would hopefully not fire up that much. But as you can see now, cutting on to lap 29 on nearly a bone dry track, the Inter's still going strong, and we have an 8.4 second lead, I believe, on Jarno Opmeer, who was on the slick. So it just shows you how crazy it is on this game, that some of the strategies that you need to pull off. But we've managed to do it. We made the risky call to go for a brand new set of Inters, get the undercut, and we're coming out the last corner for the final time, going for a lovely little drift, and that is going to be P1.
Absolutely beautiful. Yes.
Come on, baby. Come on.
Brilliant strategy. Get in. Get in. Oh, that was such a sketchy. That was so tough to call. Nice.
So there you have it, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. That is another win in WR in this season at round 3 in Miami. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoyed, you know, the battles and all that stuff. It was a good fun race, this one. But yeah, have a great rest of your day, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in, and yeah, leave your thoughts down below in the comments as well. I really do appreciate all the support. So take care, everybody. Have a good rest of your day. Love you all. Catch you in the next one. Ciao.